worthy speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and Assalamu alaikum. I, on behalf of Dr. Asad Majid Khan, Ambassador of Pakistan, welcome you all at the Embassy of Pakistan. I would like to extend our apologies for starting our program a bit late because of having another back-to-back event. Every year, 27th October is observed as a Black Day to mark landing of Indian occupational forces in the Jammu and Kashmir. I thank you all for sparing time out of your busy schedules and turning up here to show your solidarity with the people of Kashmir. To formally begin with our proceedings, I would request Muhammad Yunus to come over to the stage and recite few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فسبحان الله حين تمسون وحين تصبحون وله الحمد في السماوات والأرض وعشيا وحين تظهرون يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون صدق الله العظيم.
I would like to request Mr. Abid Saeed, Minister Press, to come onto the stage and read the message of the President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan on the occasion.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Message from Dr. Arif Alvi, President Islamic Republic of Pakistan on Kashmir Black Day, October 27, 2019. 27th October marks one of the darkest chapters in the history of Jammu and Kashmir. On this day, 72 years ago, Indian security forces landed in Srinagar to occupy, oppress and terrorize the innocent people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir in blatant violation of international law and morality. The United Nations Security Council, through several of its resolutions, has upheld the fundamental right of the Kashmiri people to decide their own future through a fair and impartial plebiscite held under the UN auspices. Reneging on its repeated commitments to the international community to implement these resolutions, India has continued on the path of brutal suppression of the Kashmiri people to this day. Since August 5, 2019, India has imposed an inhuman lockdown over 8 million people in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Use of torture, enforced disappearances and restrictions on freedom of movement and assembly are the stark realities today. Indian occupation forces are perpetrating unspeakable crimes against the Kashmiri people, including women and children, with complete impunity. The indefensible curfew and communication blackout, going on for nearly 3 months now, is illustrative of the state terrorism that India has wreaked on innocent Kashmiris for decades. No matter how brutal its policies and tactics, India cannot crush the spirit of the Kashmiri people. Today, we pay homage to the martyrs for the cause of Kashmir and honor all those who have suffered at the hands of Indian occupying forces. Pakistan reaffirms its unflinching moral, political and diplomatic support to the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir with the solemn pledge that this will continue until the realization of their legitimate right to self-determination. Thank you.
May I now request Mr. Ubaidur Rahman Nizamani, Minister, to come onto the stage and read the message of Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan according to the bill.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Message by the Prime Minister of Pakistan on Kashmir Black Day, 27 October 2019. The Kashmir Black Day being observed in Pakistan and across the world today is distinct from the past. On 27 October 1947, India had illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And on 5 August 2019, it took further steps to unilaterally alter the disputed status of the territory and change its demographic structure and identity. Pakistan, the Kashmiris and the Muslim Ummah have categorically rejected this travesty of law and justice. Since 5 August 2019, the scale and intensity of the Indian government's human rights violations have increased several folds. Through the deployment of additional troops and an unprecedented media and communications blackout that has continued for almost 3 months, Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has been turned into the largest prison on the planet. There is a shortage of medicines and essential food items. Thousands have been arbitrarily detained. Thousands of young boys have been abducted, incarcerated in undisclosed locations, and subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment. The Indian state terrorism has turned even more atrocious. The world community, international human rights organizations, and the international media are calling India out on this tyranny. The facade of India being the so-called largest democracy stands fully exposed. Pakistan demands the immediate lifting of the curfew and communications blackout, as well as rescinding of India's illegal and unilateral actions. We urge the international community to play its role in ensuring respect for the fundamental human rights and freedoms of the Kashmiri people and averting grave risks to peace and security posed by India's irresponsible actions. We express our unshakable solidarity with the people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir and assure our Kashmiri brothers and sisters that Pakistan will always be shoulder to shoulder with them. Pakistan will continue its full moral, political and diplomatic support until the Kashmiri people realize their legitimate right to self-determination in accordance with the United Nations Charter and the applicable UN Security Council resolutions. Message ends. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a documentary featuring the significance and history of Kashmir Black Day would now be played.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for showing up and expressing your solidarity with the people of Jammu and Kashmir who are living under continued occupation of Indian forces. Well, this year is very different from the last year. India has put additional 150,000 forces to its already existing 700,000 forces in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. There is total curfew, and today is 85th day of the curfew. There are people, about 13,000 youth have been kidnapped from their houses, and they are basically thrown into different jails of India. Some of them are as young, at the age is between 13 and 18 years of old. They are 13 to 18 years old, and the youngest of them is 7 years old. Their parents don't know about their whereabouts. They don't know where they are. There is one example when the parents were told that their ward is in the jail in Calcutta. They went to Calcutta, they were told that they are in Andhra Pradesh. And then they went to Andhra Pradesh, they were told that they are in Madras. So they depleted their resources just in traveling to different, running from pillar to post so that they can know the whereabouts of their children. Doctors, engineers, lawyers, civil services, businessmen have been arrested. One of them is my friend who is in Agra jail and who is having prostate and diabetes, and he's not getting medical attention, and he's on the verge of death. One of his cellmate is a business leader, and his mother died recently, and he was not granted parole to attend the funeral of his mother. There are no schools. There are no medical facilities. There is shortage of food. And we don't know what is going on because there is no internet, there are no telephones, there is total communication blockade. Think about, ladies and gentlemen, think about yourself. That have you heard of these kind of atrocities inflicted on innocent people? And what is their fault? And Indian government has the audacity to say that the Kashmiris are happy. No, Kashmiris are not happy. Kashmiris are fighting. There are still demonstrations where they say that India go out. And India has to go out. They can inflict as many as atrocities, but youth of Kashmir have made a pledge to themselves that they will see to it that this occupation comes to an end. There is a certain modus operandi in it. They go to the houses and pick up the youth. And then what they do, in one example, it was stated, they apply electric shocks to their genitals. They put mud in their mouth so that they could shriek. And then they sprayed them with pellet guns. I saw the Assistant Secretary of State testifying before the Congress that they have no information of the pellet guns. This year it was in 2017. That is totally wrong. There have been so many cases, at least 300 to 400 cases of pellet guns where people have been sprayed with those pellet bullets. My own cousin died of recurring breast cancer because she could not get the treatment for the cancer because the hospitals were blocked and there is no medicine. I know a case where I was talking to a friend of mine where he has diabetes and he's running out of insulin. He said, if you know anybody in Delhi who could supply me insulin. There are people who are suffering from kidney failure. They need dialysis on a weekly basis. They don't have access to that. You have to see which government is ruling India. It is the fascist government. And Dino Sarkozy has said that they want to change the demographics of the state so that they can put in their own people, but those RSS gundas into the Kashmir Valley. And when the demographics is changed, they can say, let us hold a plebiscite, and so that the decision can be in their favor. $130,000 youth have died in Kashmir today. 20,000 women were raped. The incidents of Kunan Poshpara, we will not be able to forget, where in twin villages, 80 women ranging the ages between 15 to 80 were raped for a whole night. We cannot find the Tajamul Hussain was a young kid who was playing carom board on the street when there was a curfew. And the army man came, he took him aside and wrung his neck by putting army boots on his throat, and he died instantaneously. This is the kind of government we are dealing with. And then Indian government says that people are happy with India. Okay, they are happy with India. Like Prime Minister Imran Khan said today, hold an election. India is telling their head, hold elections in Kashmir. But hold one election in which give the choice to people whether they want India, Pakistan or Kashmir. If they are with India, then we have no problem with it. Imran Khan may not like it, I may not like it, Ali Shah Gilani, Yasin Malik may not like it, but that is the decision of the people. Kashmiri people have spoken in so many words. When Imran Khan spoke on United Nations, you would know that how much hopes of these people of Kashmir were raised. They came out. Imran said, "Bhai se rishta kya? La ilaha illallah." Whenever people die, we bury them in Pakistani flags. We have spoken in so uncertain terms, but India is not listening. And that is their plan. So they change the demographics, bring in more Hindus from India, more these settlements, so that the demographics can be changed. People of Kashmir have a lot of hope in Pakistan. And I congratulate Pakistan. We are thankful to Pakistan. After a long time, they have taken the right steps. I'm thankful to Imran Khan, where he said he will be the ambassador for the people of Kashmir. There is a ray of hope. What time did the four presidential candidates from the Democratic Party spoke for the people of Kashmir and said that India has to stop the atrocities on the people of Kashmir. There were about 21 congressmen who spoke in support of Kashmir. There are voices from Europe, there are voices from everywhere. No, we don't see ground reality changing much. People of Kashmir are suffering still. That is frustrating. But India is also caught in a position, in a very tough situation. They don't know how to wriggle out of it. And we have to keep continuous pressure on the government of India so that they cannot, the cause of Kashmir is not forgotten. I was yesterday speaking with Senator Chris O'Brien of Maryland. I told him that why is not Trump's situation changing? He said India is really worried. There is pressure on India. They come to us with explanation and so on and so forth. Pakistan has to continue to launch this diplomatic offensive. We need a Kashmiri cell in every embassy in the world. We need to create the chairs in the Kashmir studies in various universities. We need to inform the world. We need to inform everybody what is going on in Kashmir. Things have changed. Yes, I wish this thing had started much earlier, where we could have reached. Because 2 years ago when I was in Denmark and Copenhagen, and when we told them what is going on in Kashmir, they told us, we don't know. There are mass graves in Kashmir. Why is not anybody talking about that? And these mass graves were not discovered by some Pakistani or some Kashmiri Muslim. It was by Professor Angana Chatterjee, a Hindu who lives in San Francisco, in collaboration with local lawyer Parvez Imroz. And she found that there were 2,500 mass graves in Kashmir. And when Indian government got whiff of it, they booted her out of the country along with her husband. And she's not allowed to go to India anymore. This is an international crime for which Indian authorities have to pay for it. They are answerable to it. It is a criminal act for which Saddam Hussein had to face the gallows. So, we have to continue the battle. We are in the long haul. Duty, ladies and gentlemen, lies on you. You have to educate whomsoever you can. In the mosques, everywhere, you have to say about Kashmir and expose what the Indian government is doing. Indian government is really scared of it. Don't think they are frustrated. Imagine they have even arrested the pro-Indian politicians, Farooq Abdullah, Mufti Muhammad Singh, Mahbooba Mufti, and so on and so forth. That shows their restlessness. Only thing for us is to not to blink. Continue to put pressure on the Indian government so that they can come to talk to the people of Jammu and Kashmir and give the people their right of self-determination. And I think my time is over, I believe, and thank you very much. It's a very emotional issue, and I have a family in Kashmir whom I have not talked to for months. I don't know, like when my cousin died, I came to know after 3 weeks. There was one case in which there's a doctor in San Francisco. He wrote on the Facebook that his sister was sick for the last 2 months, and he couldn't talk to him for those 2 months, and then now she's no more in this world. And there are numerous cases like this. There are numerous cases like this. And Kashmiri people are suffering, but no doubt, but they are not depressed, because they know that there are battles, they'll fight these battles, and they will basically, inshallah, there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and one day Kashmir will get their right of self-determination.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Dr. Sardar Zulfikar Hussain Khan, Joint Secretary, Kashmir American Welfare Association, to come onto the stage to share his views.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अम्मा बाद अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम His Excellencies Ambassador Dr. Asad Wajid, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me congratulate my own community, Kashmiri American community, and the unwavering support and guidance we received from our dear friends, Pakistani American community, for making 3 important events possible in the United States. First, the momentous rally at Houston of September 22nd, when Narendra Modi was dancing for his genocidal action he had taken in Kashmir by abrogating the Article 370 and Article 35A. The historic rally in front of the United Nations during the speech of Narendra Modi, when more than 30,000 people sent the message that the India's brutal action in Kashmir will not stand. Third, this week, when congressional briefing and hearing were held at the Capitol Hill, all these events signify only one thing: when the members of our community are united for a purpose, they can make anything happen. Ladies and gentlemen, today we deplore India's continuing illegal occupation for Kashmir and human rights violation there on the anniversary of India's criminal invasion launched on October 27, 1947. Since that day, India has committed injustice, tyranny and inhumanity as it occupies Jammu and Kashmir. Let me also remind you that the conflict of Kashmir began in 1846 with the illegal, immoral and inhuman sale of the historic state of Jammu and Kashmir to a non-Kashmiri Dogra family for services rendered to the British Raj. From that point onwards, Kashmiris have longed for self-determination. Yet, tragically, their legitimate aspirations were crushed by the brutal foreign ruler Maharaja Hari Singh, who did not have the consent of the people. With the arrival of Indian soldiers, the historic Black Day of occupation began its more recent and sincere manifestation. Let us not forget that at this crucial stage of our historic struggle of self-determination, the Kashmiri people with poise, confidence and unity are taking their inalienable struggle in a new direction of non-violence and peaceful agitation. Their unity in warning demonstrates their will no resist India's illegal occupation and defiance of the United Nations Security Council resolutions mandating a self-determination plebiscite for the 23rd million people of Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, the world power and the senior elements in both India and Pakistan need to be realized that the bilateral talks between India and Pakistan have always remained fruitless. The people of Kashmir believe that a just and lasting settlement of the dispute is possible only through the tri-parties negotiation between the government of India and government of Pakistan and the legitimate leadership of the people of state Jammu and Kashmir. We believe that all parties Hurriyat Conference headed by Sayyid Ali Gilani, Muhammad Yasin Malik and Mirwaz Umar Farooq has the legitimacy to represent not only the people of India occupied Kashmir, but also the people of Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. I say it because the leadership of all political parties in Azad Kashmir have said it publicly, that Hurriyat Conference will represent the people of Kashmir in any future negotiation between India and Pakistan. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, let me make it as clear as I can that any Kashmir solution that fails to command the consensus of the 22 million people of Kashmir is doomed to fail. Let me also make it clear that with Kashmir participation, anything is possible. Without their participation, I think nothing is possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request former Ambassador of Pakistan, Ambassador Tokir Hussain, to come onto the stage to share his views.
Excellency Ambassador Asad Majid Khan, distinguished Kashmiri leaders and honored guests, I feel privileged to be asked yet again to speak on this subject very dear to our heart. I was touched by the very passionate remarks by the Kashmiri speakers. They gave a powerful expression to the pain, suffering, and anguish felt by the Kashmiris at the hands of brutality and savagery of Indian forces. We ourselves could feel the pain in our bones when they were speaking. Following years of unrelenting repression and humiliation of Kashmiris, India has finally extinguished, in its view, the last ray of hope for them by repealing Article 370 and 335 of the Indian Constitution that had granted Kashmir a special status. It did so in violation of the United Nations Security Council resolution that forbids annexation of the disputed territory and called for a free and impartial plebiscite to allow Kashmiris to determine their own future. Tragically, the crisis that Kashmiris have come to face, which has turned Kashmir into the world's
largest open prison as described by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. We are gathered here to commemorate the Kashmir Black Day, but for the suffering Kashmiris, each day has now become a black day. With the August 5 action, India has launched several assaults on Kashmir. Articles 370 and 35A defined India's special status, Kashmir's special status with India under Indian Constitution. By removing this status and downgrading the state into union territory, India has done two things. Formally turned Kashmir into an occupied territory and tried to erase Kashmir's Muslim identity. It's a brazen attempt to change Kashmir's demographics and its political, economic, social and cultural character, making it difficult for the Kashmiris to exercise the right of self-determination in flagrant violations of international law. This has further deepened the sense of insecurity among the Kashmiris, whose foretaste Modi has given by putting Kashmir under inhuman lockdown with widespread detentions, communications blackouts. The enormity of India's brutality was so overwhelming that it has aroused the criticism of some of the closest friends and supporters of India in the US Congress. And that's not all. Kashmir's special status had offered the international community, especially the United Nations, a locus standi to play a role. The 5th August move has taken away from Pakistan and the Kashmiris such a redress and slammed the door to dialogue and peaceful settlement of the dispute. The peace and stability of the region has been imperiled by Indian action. The Indian move has caused a sense of shock, anger, and outrage among people of Pakistan. And Pakistanis strongly believe, as does Prime Minister Imran Khan's government, that Pakistan must do all it can to seek a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir dispute for the sake of Kashmiris as well as for the sake of Pakistan. Pakistan is not alone in condemning the Indian action. There has been an extensive coverage by the American and international media censoring the Indian action, leading international publications or electronic media have been reporting and writing editorials on the issue. According to these reports, thousands have been imprisoned and the rest live under incessant curfew. The United Nations, International Commission of Jurists, global human rights organizations, and other international agencies have also spoken up. The UN Secretary General has issued a statement. The UN Security Council has met on the request of Pakistan and China to consider the situation. It's the first time in 50 years that the UN Security Council meeting has taken place on Kashmir. Now, how can Pakistan help Kashmiris in their darkest hour? Not since the early years of Pakistan's history has Pakistan been so determined to take up the Kashmir cause internationally and within the country. Prime Minister Imran Khan emphatically and successfully projected the case of Kashmir at the recent United Nations General Assembly session, urging the world to act immediately and press India to lift the restrictions on Kashmiris and help them exercise their right to self-determination. Similarly, not only the UN Security Council met and discussed Kashmir issue, but the Organization of Islamic Cooperation contact group has twice held its meetings on the issue. Iran, China, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Malaysia have also expressed concern over the dire human rights situation in Kashmir. And here in the United States, the Pakistan embassy has been hard at work. Now, where do we go from here? The core element of the Kashmiri struggle is going to be the Kashmiri resistance, which in recent years has grown stronger. The youth that was once a follower is now a leader, educated, attuned to contemporary modes of activism, and specially adept at social media and provocative videos. The youth have been driving force of the movement since Burhan Wani's death. The movement will no doubt rebound once India eases the restrictions. The key instrument of diplomatic pressure on India will be the international campaign, especially in the West, by the Kashmiris and Pakistanis through media, human rights organizations, advocacy groups, and think tank community. The campaign must aim at domestic politics by agitating public opinion about humanitarian issues and by projecting an air of international crisis among the foreign policy establishment. The U.S. congressional hearing on the human rights situation on South Asia, which focused on Kashmir on October 22nd, was just one example of the positive outcome of such an effort. The ambassador and his team deserve credit for their admirable efforts. If successful, the continuing diplomatic campaign by Pakistan may taint India's international standing, but by itself will not be enough. It could be consequential only along with any other cost to India of its brutal repression. The cost to India may include potential domestic instability in India, harm to India-Pakistan relations, threat to regional peace, risk of war, and loss of economic opportunities by India. So how does Pakistan raise the cost? That is what the issue boils down to. Through a comprehensive national strategy, Pakistan has to ensure that the outsider's view of Indian oppression is not obscured by Indian allegations of terrorism, by taking firm action against the jihadists and raising its own international standing. We greatly appreciate that Pakistan is making serious efforts towards that end. Meanwhile, it is also reassuring to hear Prime Minister Imran Khan reiterating in his Black Day message that those talking about military support or jihad in occupied Kashmir are enemies of Pakistan as well as the Kashmiri people. But Pakistan, for its own sake and for the sake of Kashmir, must continue its resolve to act against these militants. There is a constant demand from Washington also to do so. The fact is, a moderate and stable Pakistan enjoying peaceful relations with India will be in the best position to help not only Pakistan but help the United States, especially in helping Afghanistan in its search for peace and stability, and thus helping US-Pakistan relations. It will raise Pakistan's value as a partner and obligate American leadership to play a more active role in the resolution of the Kashmir dispute. After all, for more than 6 decades, US-Pakistan relations have served some of the country's best interests, and that has been longer than the US-India relations. The United States has helped raise India's economic might, economic weight, military potential, and diplomatic stature. Washington thus enjoys enormous leverage to influence India. It was not without a reason that President Trump had offered to mediate in the Kashmir dispute. The United States should now make good on the President's offer to show America's greatness again. Kashmir is not just a political dispute. It's also about American values and interests. India has aspirations for big power status. However, its aspirations are not likely to succeed in a dangerous security environment to which it surely has made a contribution by its decision to end the special status of Kashmir. India's aspirations can only be realized in a peaceful and stable South Asia, and that cannot happen without the resolution of the Kashmir dispute. And Pakistan has a responsibility also to strengthen itself to a point that India is forced to seek friendly relations with Pakistan, which cannot get without first solving the Kashmir dispute. Let me conclude by emphasizing that much more needs to be done by Pakistan and the Kashmiris. Over the decades, Kashmiris have suffered two problems: Indian repression and fraud committed against them from day one. Not just by India, but I'm sorry to say by their own leaders as well. Pakistan has been critical to the success of their resistance, and Kashmiris would not have come this far without Pakistan's help. But at times, in their desperation, Kashmiris have felt, rightly and wrongly, aggrieved that Pakistan too has been unfair to them. Time has come for Pakistan to fully stand behind Kashmiris and respect their wishes. It should walk together with Kashmiris, not separately. What is good for them is good for Pakistan. Pakistan has the moral, diplomatic and strategic obligation to help them. And Pakistani Americans have a great responsibility in this country to engage along with the Kashmiris, the politicians, human rights activists and think tank community to protect the Kashmir cause. Let me end on this hopeful note. The opportunity has never been greater in this country to help the Kashmiris, and the embassy has never been so well motivated and organized under the leadership of Ambassador Asir Mili. Wish you well. Thank you.
Speakers, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. And thank you very much for joining us this evening here at the Embassy of Pakistan to show your solidarity with the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, to commemorate with us that black day that marked that long ordeal that our Kashmiri brothers and sisters have to endure and are still enduring. A day on 27th October 1947. And just a day before that, it was that sham instrument of accession that laid the foundation of a conflict that still holds back enduring peace and stability in South Asia, that still is a source of repression and tyranny against the people of Indian Jammu, occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So thank you very much, really. And you have heard from a range of speakers, passionate pleas rooted in the realities on the ground in terms of how people are suffering. You have also heard a very well considered case laid out, not just about what this issue is, how things are developing around this issue, but also about the way forward. I really would like to avail this opportunity, and I think Ambassador Fakir Hussain is right, and in a way this is an opportunity that the Indian government, the BJP government has provided in galvanizing the Kashmir issue once again, in raising questions in the minds of mainstream Americans of what this issue is, what this conflict is. In just about last 2 months, since August 5, we have had a Kashmir Day on the Hill. We have had a Kashmir Human Rights Foundation's awareness or a briefing, a comprehensive briefing, which was attended by more than about 120 staffers on the Hill. You know, I have worked on this relationship for a long time. No matter how you do it, it's really very, very difficult to bring under one roof that many number of Hill staffers from across the aisle, from both parties. But I think what was really significant was the hearing of the Asia Subcommittee, convened broadly to discuss the human rights situation in South Asia, but actually focused entirely on the human rights violations in the occupied valley. The language used by the members of the Congress, the idiom in which they spoke, I think it came out very clearly that there is an ongoing human rights and humanitarian crisis in Kashmir. That Kashmir remains a dispute and a disputed territory that needs to be resolved. That people of the occupied valley are suffering discrimination because of their faith. That there are thousands that have been arrested, taken into custody at various levels, and that the crisis continues. I think that hearing and whatever happened in the lead up to that hearing, including those letters, tweets, statements issued by almost 70 US congressmen and senators, is actually a tribute to you all, our Kashmiri American brothers and our Pakistani American compatriots. It is a tribute to your effort in reaching out, in making the case. And if you have heard what the congressmen had to say, they actually very clearly said that they have been approached by their constituents. The crisis is not over. And I think the takeaway for us is that we are in for a long haul. This is not 100 meters. This is a marathon, where we will have to continue to work, to continue to highlight, because India will take those cosmetic steps that would create that facade of normalization. They were, even in these circumstances, shamelessly claiming that situation is normal and that we are doing it for the good and development of the people of Kashmir. So if there is even a slightest relenting in their approach and attitude, they are going to blow it out. And that's where we will actually have to be more vigilant, more active in promoting awareness, because people around you, around us, frankly, I mean, this was an issue, perhaps a life and death issue for many of us. but majority here did not really actually know. And what has happened and all the op-eds and all the opinion pieces that have appeared and some of those demarches that you have made at the community level in your constituencies have really brought it to another level. So that's the first thing. Please continue to sensitize your representatives and all those who are in those influential positions. So keep the good work doing. We are only essentially facilitating and in some ways coordinating, but it is your effort. And whatever we are hearing, whatever we are seeing, I think for that the credit goes to you. And the other important point that I want to make is that yes, there is a continuing humanitarian crisis and we must raise our voice as loud as we can. But parallel to that, there is also a serious peace and security crisis also in the making. If you are tracking developments closely, clearly the Indians have escalated the line of control. The amount of fire coming our way, the number of civilians killed on our side of the border is a source of concern. And these two nuclear powers pitted against each other in a very, very tenuous situation where India will have some incentive and probably incentive to basically escalate because it helps them in so many ways. In terms of diverting attention, in terms of hiding their repression. And we have therefore even warned the international community of a false flag operation. And that is why the Prime Minister very clearly said that anyone who would engage in violence or cross the line of control would be doing no service to the cause of Kashmir. We will and we must continue to raise our voices and extend that political, diplomatic and moral support that we have extended to our brothers and sisters in Kashmir, and we will continue to do that. So I know you have had a long evening. I thank you once again for joining us this evening in commemorating the Black Day, in showing solidarity with the people of Kashmir, and I seek your cooperation and support in continuing to work within the US system to sensitize our friends there on the evolving situation. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of today's event. May I now request you to proceed for the dinner.